Steady, sturdy, soft, straight hands. Mum lights a candle in my darkened room and places it under the icon of St. Peter on my desk. Shuffling over to my bedside, she falls feather light to her knees. The smell of flowering jasmine wafts through the window, lifting me to a better place. She dabs at the blood-clogged stitches above my right eye with a warm, wet cloth, then places the reddened fabric back into a steaming bowl of water by her side. Mum's left hand enters her pocket, returning with rattles and clinks. Wrapped around her fingers, a jangled web of rosary beads. The crystal edges and silvery links catch the flickering light, ensnaring my eye. Your name means rock, Pedro, just like St. Peter. She whispers, you're my rock, Pedro. Don't you forget that. I look up at Mum's face, bathed in golden candlelight, and manage a smile. Her lips start to move as once tedious words pour from her mouth like honey. Hail Mary, full of grace. My eyes grow heavy and my head sinks deeper into the pillow. Blessed is the fruit of thy womb. Under my doona, I turn on my side and curl up tight into a ball. Pray for us sinners now. A wet, warm cloth strokes the side of my face, wiping away my troubles. Sleep swallows up the night. They're fighting in the kitchen. The Lise turns on the stereo in her room, but I can still hear their voices. You're not here. He needs you, John. You're at work, you're shed at the pokies, but never here. Mum speaks strange words tonight. Stranger words than I've ever heard before. I picture her on her favourite kitchen stool lighting a fresh cigarette, fingers trembling. Dad doesn't respond. The fly screen creaks open and his measured footsteps clack their way down the garden path towards the shed. It's after midnight. Dogs are barking at the moon, and outside my window the jasmine vine rustles in a dark spring breeze. Dad's waiting for you in the shed. Mum grabs my milk splash breakfast bowl, wipes clean the placemat and returns to the sink, ignoring the look of shock on my face. As I walk towards the shed, I double-check my shoelaces, shirt buttons, and smile before knocking. Come in, Pedro, Dad calls. I push open the door and step into Dad's place. My eyes dart around. In one corner, there's a leather recliner, coffee table, and reading lamp. Under the lamp, an ashtray and a smouldering cigarette curling wisps of smoke up towards the roof. To the left is a little glass cupboard full of spirits, Johnny Walker, St. Remy, Smirnoff, Hennessy, and right beside that, a bar fridge purring like a satisfied cat. At the other end of the shed, there's a drop saw, a workbench, and a wall panel covered in assorted hand tools, each tool neatly hung and bordered by hand-drawn lines. And along the back wall, there's a heavy green curtain covering up something big. Dad steps over to the workbench and looks down at a rifle lying on top. The rifle's made of polished wood and black ice steel. He picks it up. The stitches above my right eye start to throb as Dad swings the gun in my direction. The rifle feels heavy as Dad places it in my hands. It's a .22 caliber Winchester. I used to go rabbiting with it as a boy. Dad leads me over to the workbench and points, place it down there on that long piece of pine. I put the rifle down and Dad takes a pencil, carefully tracing its outline onto the wood. You better sit down and get comfortable, Dad says, pointing to the recliner. For the next 3 hours, I watch Dad measure, saw, plane, chisel, and sand in silence. I sit there dreaming of my new gun and the look on Chris Reed's face the next time we play war. Mum calls for lunch, but Dad ignores her. He lifts the wooden rifle up to his shoulder and looks down at the finely sanded barrel. Almost finished, he mutters. He grabs a short length of polypipe from a cardboard box and screws it to the top of the rifle, a sniper's scope. I look up with big saucer eyes at my skillful dad as he runs his fingers over the surface of his new creation looking for faults. Perfect, he says. Perfect. At lunchtime, I eat everything Mum throws down in front of me. The wooden rifle rests on my lap, smooth to touch. A perfect lunch. A perfect day. I find the old dusty rifle Dad made for me when I was 10 under my bed. My shoulder presses hard into the rifle's butt. The gun's tip edges out my bedroom window. My rage pours through the plastic scope and down the barrel like molten lead. Perfect, I whisper. I fantasy-fire my bullets into an unsuspecting neighborhood. I spy the neighbor's noisy dog. Blood red. Dead. A squawking magpie. Puff. A cloud of feathers. My school jumper hanging on the line. Rip, tear, threadbare. And the lock on Dad's shed door. I pause, remembering. The lock on Dad's shed. Inside that shed is a heavy green curtain hiding something big. I start to understand why my 17-year-old sister Delise never invites her friends over anymore, and why Dad comes home late from work every night. First, there's Mum's cooking. Oxtail curry soup, mud brown sinigang stew, and bloated palabok noodles. After a sesame oil fry-up with a northerly blowing, you can smell our joint all the way down at Heidelberg Station. Then there's all the Catholic stuff. Rosary beads hanging on the umbrella stand, the portrait of Jesus in the lounge, crucifixes dangling from walls, and a figurine of Mary in the kitchen. There's even an icon of St. Francis in the toilet. In the toilet, for God's sakes. Yeah, I start to understand. I start to understand when VJ comes over for the first time after school. Mum sits him down at our table and insists he has a snack. Crispy pata, she says, placing a plate of fried and battered meat sticks before him. VJ's eyes light up and he munches away. But the next minute he's coughing, spluttering and pulling out a long, wiry hair from halfway down his throat. So sorry, Mum says. I thought I got the hair all off. So sorry. VJ looks down at the tasty meat stick. A chunk of batter falls off its side, revealing a pig's trotter underneath. VJ never visits again, and I start to understand. Most of all, I start to understand just how undesirable it can be keeping up with the Joneses. On Friday, I arrive at school and open my locker door. Stuck to the inside panel with masking tape is the hand-drawn picture of a giant, slobbering pink pig wallowing in mud and eating its own shit. Underneath the picture, in red texter, are the words, "You are what you eat." Grandma Jones lives in a red double brick house with an English cottage garden in East Malvern. On the mantelpiece in her living room is a sumptuous urn containing the cremated remains of her dead husband, the bank manager, Alfred Drummond Jones. Ever since I can remember, Dad would take Delise and me once a fortnight to visit Grandma Jones. She'd always greet us at the front door with makeup-heavy eyes and palm olive words, directing us to the bathroom to wash our filthy and contaminated hands before entering her domain. She'd then hand a shopping list to Dad, who'd disappear for 4 long hours, while Delise and me helped Grandma with chores around the house. I'd be put to work outside in the neatly manicured garden to weed, dig, mow and rake. In spring, Grandma's heavily flowered garden would explode with colours and smells. But always, my attention would be drawn to the tightly staked rose bushes in the front yard. The roses, so naturally wild, fragrant and buoyant, always seemed so diminished in their English cottage prison. Their thorns their only means of defence against their warder's hands. They would sit there, row upon row, burning in the afternoon sun like a chain gang of inmates, working all day for the benefit of others, while suffering their own private hell.